I don't like very much to speak alone. You know.
So
Yeah.
we will make it interactive, ma'am. In between, you can keep asking the audience that if they are interested to ask any question. I will give them the permission to unmute, and then they will ask. Or a chat box is also open. If they believe,
Okay.
if they think that they want to ask you something, then we will make it like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, ma'am, with your permission, can we begin now? Fine. Okay, good afternoon, all of you. Good afternoon to all the audience present in this webinar, whether they may be listening to us from Italy or Spain, or whether in India. It's an afternoon to all of us. Now, today we have brought to you this international webinar on prevention and protection of sexual harassment of women at workplace. Now, once said by Maya Angelou, how important it is for us to recognize and celebrate our heroes instead of sheroes. The word heroes itself includes the word he. A gender equal society would be one where the word gender does not exist, where everyone can be themselves. This is what Gloria Steinem said. And with this theme, we have brought in front of you all two of the distinguished speakers and eminent personality in law field. Of course, one from outside India. She is Professor Dr. Antonita Elia, and another is our very own Rajasthan state resident, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi Sharma ma'am. Both of them are going to discuss in front of all of us that what is all about POSH, that is prevention of sexual harassment for women at workplace. Yes, of course, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, similarly, International Labour Organization, similarly, International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, United Nations Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which is CEDAW, also International Labour Organization Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention 1989, ILO's Decent Work for Domestic Workers Convention, the Beijing Platform for Action drawn at the United Nations Women's Conference in Beijing, and lots of international platforms where there has been always promotion and discussion of this prevention of sexual harassment to women. When we talk about India, it was recently the Prevention and Prohibition Redressal Act of 2013, that is POSH Act, was enacted by our Indian government to address the problems faced by the women regarding sexual harassment at workplace. So with this theme, as I said, we have brought in front of you all two of the eminent personalities. Of course, it is my duty to introduce them, but I will introduce them during the sessions. As I said, the structure of this program is going to comprise of two sessions of 30 minutes each. As Elia ma'am said, that she wants these sessions to be interactive. She don't want to speak more rather than hear you more. So yes, with these two sessions, then final wind up with the question and answer. This is all we have got for you in this international webinar. Now, before I move ahead, let me invite Principal of our NTVS College of Law, Nandurbar, Dr. N.D. Chaudhary sir, to welcome the audience. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Asani. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Honorable Dr. Antonita, Professor from Spain. Honorable Professor Dr. Vijay Lakshmi Sharma Madam from Rajasthan. Dear all my friend participants, I welcome you all on behalf of NTVS College of Law, Institute of Legal Education and Research, Nandurbar, Maharashtra. Today at this webinar on prevention and protection of sexual harassment of women. Friends, we know that we are facing the problem of women empowerment. Women, though they do 60% or more than 60% work, but still they possess less than 5% property in the world. Their representation at various positions, maybe in the administrators, maybe in the rulers, is very less. And all this happening due to the gender discrimination. And gender discrimination is the root cause for all these problems, and it also results into violations against the women. Various legal systems provides for the equal status to women empowerment. In India also, our Constitution of India provides equality for women. Article 14, 15, 16 provides equal status to women, equal opportunity to the business under Article 19. Even under Article 21, right to life is given to women, equal status. But still, women in India are facing various issues. One incident was happened in 1997, the very famous case law Vishakha case, where the Supreme Court laid down certain guidelines because there were no express provisions in the penal code regarding protection to women who are working at work, who are facing the various sexual harassment at workplace. So Honorable Supreme Court of India laid down certain guidelines and also expected from the Parliament to make a special law in this regard. But unfortunately, it took 16 years to Parliament to make a special law regarding this. And in 2013, Indian Parliament made a special law, that is protection of women from sexual harassment at workplace. But the thing is that since the law is made 7 years back, nearly 8 years back, but still the women who are working at various fields, they are unaware of the provisions which are made for them. A survey was conducted in Maharashtra state of India, where it was found that very less working women were they were aware about the protection available to them regarding the sexual harassment at workplace. They were not known about the various committees which are constituted for their protection. So it is very essential to have an awareness among the women as well as among the every citizen of the society. So feeling our social responsibility, being a legal institute, we thought it fit to have a webinar on this topic. And we are fortunate that to highlight on this topic, we have very eminent resource persons today, Professor Dr. Antonita Madam, Professor Dr. Vijay Lakshmi Madam. We will heard whatever they will enlighten us on this topic. So I welcome you all again in this webinar. I am thankful to my management for encouraging us for conducting such type of program. So, and I request each and everyone that please be with us till the end of this webinar. So thank you. Over to Dr. Hassani.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Yes, as sir rightly mentioned that it was our Honorable Supreme Court of India which laid down various guidelines regarding sexual harassment in the Vishakha's case. But what an irony that even after 16, 17 years, government thought to enact the POSH Act in 2013. It was long waiting for all the women in India who were really demanding that such kind of an special act should be enacted in our country. Yes, men are powerful. There is gender bias everywhere, and that is why we have brought this program under the banner of gender sensitization. The program itself title is the gender sensitization program. And why still in this 21st century, we are in a need to discuss such kind of things over this platform. So this is what we have to think again and again, that why we are not giving that kind of status to women also, which we men enjoy in our society. Yes, the person who is powerful, the powerful person attracts the attention of persons. The powerful person attracts the respect of the persons. The person who is powerful, the person who is having power, I can say he can rule the world. But why she cannot rule the world? Why it is always he is ruling the world and she is not ruling the world? Yes, the sexual harassment problem is not only for the working woman, but even if a girl student who is studying in a college, even if a woman visits any office, or yes, obviously any working woman in her office, face any kinds of such kind of teasings or any kind of acts which amounts to harassment need to be noticed, especially by herself. It is her who is going to take a daring and complain whatever parameter or whatever stage she has got to complain. So for this, we are fortunate enough to have the two of the experts to discuss more on that. So I will not waste more of the time discussing these things. And with the declaration that we are going to now start the first session of this webinar, but let me invite the eminent personality we have got for this first session. Obviously, she is Professor Dr. Antonita Elia, who is the former candidate to the Italian seat of European Committee for the Prevention of Torture in 2019. She was a senior associate fellow in law at University of Santiago de Compostela, Spain, 2012, member of the Mediterranean Experts on Climate Change and lead author of the first assessment report of the impact of climate change and environmental harms into the Mediterranean basin. Recently awarded with the Council of Europe North-South 2020 International Cooperation Prize. She was visiting professor of international law and human rights, Inter-American Academy of Human Rights, Saltillo, Mexico, 2020. She was the member of the Network for Social Justice and Integration in America, 2020. Distinguished Professor of International Law, SGT University, India, 2020. ILTES IOGA Honorary Member, member of the professional team of the School for Legal Professionals of University of Rome 3 for the period of 2020 to 23, Vice Director and member of the Executive Board of the International Council for Diplomacy and Dialogue 2020. She is specialized in international law, comparative constitutional law, and European Union law. Professor Elia carried out many engagements, both as a legal academic and a legal practitioner. She delivered courses and speech to many international institutions, and she is editorial board member and scientific advisor of multiple international journals. In that capacity, she also supervised the research projects, selection of the National Research Fund of the Republic of Serbia. So yes, she has got a long bio actually, and whatever I was able to manage in this few of the minutes, I have described in front of you all. Now it's time to hear and welcome our honorable guest from Italy or Spain, I should say. And yes, ma'am, on the behalf of my NTVS College of Law, all the participants present in this webinar, I welcome you from bottom of my heart. Ma'am, please.
Thank you very much. I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me well? Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor, for that kind invitation and this kind introduction. It is absolutely my pleasure and privilege to be with all of you, even if still in that cyber mode, if we can say it. Before to introduce my intervention here today, I would just to express my vote of thanks to the principal of university and to the distinguished colleagues present today, and most important to all students and member of audience who hearing now and the recording of that seminar. So my idea today is, initially I was requested to make a sort of lecture about the problem, the global problem. I would like to use the expression used by the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the global pandemic of violence against the women. But my idea is to convene an interactive dialogue with distinguished colleagues present today and the audience. So I will try to reduce my intervention in order to give to all of you the possibility to ask questions or make comments. And of course, feel free to interrupt me even during my presentation at any time if you have doubts and questions. I would like just to start from that kind of definition of violence against the women in general terms as a global pandemic. If that tragic situation of pandemic of COVID-19 shows us is that the groups under threat before the start of the pandemic paid and are still paying the most high price in terms of violation of rights, abuse, if forced to make to fight against the pandemics and so on. And especially I'm referring to women. What I would like to underline, talking about global pandemic in a pandemic, the in relation to violence against the women is that is not a problem of a single country. It's not a problem of a single region of the globe, but is unfortunately a diffuse threat everywhere against the women for different, in part for different reasons and with specificity of a single country, but there is at least the possibility to find common elements under that kind of misconsideration of women, general misconsideration of women, which is the first element provoking and underlining or letting free the author to make any kind of possible of a sexual and any form of violence against women. So my reference today is specifically in relation to sexual harassment against women in the workplace. It is important to distinguish, to make a difference about violence against women and sexual harassment at work. It is not the same, and it is important to try to reflect about definition, constitutive elements of such actions. Let me use simply that term, but depending from country to country, those actions are constitutive of a crime. As the honorable professor speaking before me said, the parliament needed 16 years to approve a law prohibiting sexual harassment and gender-based violence. So it depends from country to country how they define sexual harassment and distinguish the elements constitutive of sexual harassment depending where it takes place. Because of course, in relation to the workplace, it is of particular gravity, if you want. Because in the workplace, we are women are it is in a double delegate, if I can use that expression, situation. But most important, what we should try to have is a sort of individuation of constitutive elements. In that case, it is important to mention that at the United Nations level, since the declaration of 1993 on the prevention of violence against women, the elimination of violence against the women, the way to find a constitutive element, give guidelines, at least guidelines to states to identify possible situation of sexual harassment, and especially at work, has been long, but in my opinion, as growth, grew rapidly, especially with the contribution of the committee on the eradication of violence, of the elimination of violence against women, and with the contribution of other international organizations such as the ILO, as Dr. Hassani already mentioned. Sorry, I'm a little bit allergic. No worry, it's nothing that is. In my idea, to find constitutive elements of what we should take as a sexual harassment action, we should make reference to the joint efforts that UN Women from one side and ILO did and still are doing in such way. So accordingly, sexual harassment does not imply essentially a physical attack, a physical aggression, or not necessarily, because normally when we talk about sexual harassment, we have the idea that we must have a physical contact between the author. We should have in place a physical contact between the author and the victims. That's not the case. Sexual harassment cases can also include and should be considered, according the UN Women Address, also those cases where no physical, despite no physical attack or aggression took place. However, there is the tentative of psychological minimize the women at work, to take advantage or to use the job post as an instrument to obtain any sexual benefit in exchange, and in negative case to reduce the professionality or put out of the workplace women, in the extreme case refusing such kind of exchange. The mere idea, what I would like to underline here, the mere idea that in a workplace, and I'm please taking into account that I'm talking in general term about workplace, but the problem is different depending which kind of workplace we are talking about, and we will return on that point shortly, very shortly. So the mere idea that the right to work can be used by someone else at work against a woman, against a woman, asking implicitly to renounce to her dignity if she wants to maintain herself, her family, and of course maintain her right to work, it is of an incredible gravity, not only from a legal point of view, let me say that, but also and especially from an ethical point of view. It's simply inadmissible. It should be inadmissible. Since we are not in the position to eradicate such cultural conception of a woman, I don't want to use a term, but disqualification, like a disqualified person, so not qualified at least if she do not respond from a sexual request in a requested way. So we are not in that position to change such mentality, such global diffuse mentality. What we are doing is to identify such situation. So when a woman is, for example, let me just to make reference to a specific situation without mentioning the details of the case. Imagine that a woman is working in a textile farm. So in order to have progress, to make a progress, or to have an incentive, an economical incentive, she is requested to deliver other kind of service. Let me use that expression. In case of refuse, the environment at the farm, and especially the environment at the farm, marginalized her, and she stopped to be evaluated on the basis of the level of production, the level of hour of engagement at work, the quality of production she did. So that's a kind of environment constitutes, according to UN Women and to ILO, a sexual harassment too. It is not in other terms, what I'm trying to underline is that sexual harassment is not is not reducible to the action, but must include also the creation of a not favorable to work environment, a marginalized working environment. And the most important, in such environment, depending also from many factors, and the level of necessity in which women are going to work, and the other external factors contributing to a sort of implicit acceptance of such environment, we must bear in mind that sometimes involuntarily the environment includes also women, not only men. Women without not sufficient force, not sufficient freedom to recognize the action, to recognize the environment, to be disconnected and against the creation of such environment. Why I'm saying that? Because as rightly underlined from UN Women and ILO, one of the most important elements to be taken into account when we talk about the prevention of sexual harassment too is in relation to the level of the condition of women, the economic condition of women, the level of education of women too, the possibility to have access to a remedy, a way to denounce a possible case of violence or harassment, the possibility to recognize that harassment is not constituted by a a simple touch, but can be constituted also by a continuous psychological misreading of her words, reducing their and the words using or simply used to minimize her as a person, as a human being, directly against her person, because of the refusal of any other or not acceptance of any other request. What is interesting here is to note that that in 1993, as I already said, in the United Nations Declaration I already mentioned, sexual violence against women is defined as any act of gender-based violence, any act. That's the difficulty to define a crime, to define the facts, and then to impose a sanction. It's really complicated. It's easier, perhaps, for the interpreter, but not for legislature. So what is needed to take into account when we talk about gender violence in general terms and sexual harassment in specific terms at work is the person, is the human being. That's the point. When we legislate in relation to the prevention of such crimes, let me say they are crime, they are constitutive of crime, from the worst of rape, still the psychological stalking, continuous stalking until they need to abandon the workplace, for example, or to let a woman to choose between her health, psychological health, and the work. So the point is that no law is possible if it is not centered around and over woman, and over the necessity to have access to the workplace like everyone. No condition is possible to have access to career, and also this is one point. A related point is the question of empowerment of women, being more confident in herself. I'm talking in general terms, not in reference to a specific country, because as I said, it is a global problem with country specificity, of course, but it is a global problem. The point is that without empowering women, that she can be Madam President, instead something else. Since they have not equal access to education, no equal access to continuing education, professional training, because they must choose between family and work to maintain the family. So they will be seen from any society as an instrument to maintain up the society, not as a person. I'm not sure if I'm clear from that point of view. But the point is to return to women and to identify, or to try to identify, also with the help of private actors. I'm thinking, for example, to business enterprises, which normally have code of conducts, internal code of conduct, but a very big dialogue between public authority and multinational enterprises employing a high level of women in the farm, for example, can be one way to take concrete measure and to prevent sexual harassment at work, and also to create at least a disciplinary system internal to the private sector against the author of any kind of such act. And the last point, and then I would be very happy to receive a question or observation or comments, and to let the word to my distinguished colleague, Professor Vijani. The other point is to let women to have also to not believe that to be in a position of shame. That's the other point. Is not, when we talk about sexual violence, violence against the women, sexual harassment, it is not a matter of legal definition and the legal regulation. Not only, there is always a cultural and social context around. And in many places, also in Europe, sometimes who is the destinatory of a sexual harassment action at work feel like be responsible of such action. That's not the case. The unique responsible of such action is the author, not the victim. So, in other words, it is really fundamental, in my opinion, to develop a culture of against the double victimization. Me, I'm the victim, but I'm also the responsible, in the sense that it is responsible of the women to have provoked such kind of situation. That's not the case. This is the most important stop we must put all together to, and the first step to stop sexual harassment against women. Thank you very much for your attention, and please, I'm really happy to receive your question and comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yes, to the audience, if you have any queries, you can ask to our distinguished guest. You have two options. You can type your queries in the chat box, or you can raise your hand with the raise hand option. I will unmute you. Please make this session interactive. The session is also going live on YouTube. So if anyone wants to interact with madam, he or she is welcome. It would be available as a recording lifetime to you. We have got two raised hands. So yes, Vijaya Lakshmi ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, organizer, and good afternoon, madam. Thank you so much for the inputs you have given. So I am assistant professor in Law University in Tamil Nadu. My question is that we are already having a legislation to give protection through this POSH Act. Apart from that, what is your opinion regarding the role of international community to encounter the sexual violence or sexual harassment against women, those who are working in the public sectors?
Thank you, madam, for your question. If rightly understand, you asked the role of international organization in fighting in the public sphere of sexual harassment in the public sphere. I think that possibly I'm too much optimistic. Sometimes I'm accused to be in that way, but I think that many international organizations are going ahead very slowly starting from inside the same organization. I think, for example, to UNDP program, having adopted internal measure to prevent such kind of very, let me use a personal affirmation, disgusting problem, this very disgusting problem. But the international organization have certainly a good impact, indirectly and directly, both. I'm not reasoning in terms of a legal obligation, because, you know, a legal obligation can be formally adopted. Any country member, for example, of the Convention against violence, on the prevention of violence against the women of United Nations, of course, adopt legally instruments in its order, in its legal order, to implement such convention, execute such convention, and the obligation deriving from. But that's not sufficient to just have a formal implementation, because then we need policies to put in place such norms. In the case of public offices, I think I'm thinking in few countries in Europe in that time, at that moment, and you know, it is not a case of sexual harassment, because sexual harassment is just a step ahead after gender discrimination. So, or gender preferences in the public sphere and the public offices. I think, for example, that in many countries, the higher places in public career, in diplomatic career, diplomatic sphere, for example, are dedicated, are occupied by men instead of women. That the number, and this is not because there are many more men than women engaged in such field of the career, but because there is a sort of cultural mechanism inside where it is still hard for a woman to reach the top of the career in the diplomatic sphere or in the magistrature. And the magistrature, to be a woman becoming head of a prosecutor office, it is the second choice, the third, the fourth, in many countries, also in the West, and especially in the West, instead of a man. Also, let me also consider another point, the age. If you are women, and young women, and you are making career in a specific public sector, professorial university, or magistrature, or any kind of public office, you have a double element of discrimination, because not only you are a woman, but you are young. So it is supposed that you are not sufficient, you don't have sufficiently instruments to advance. So that kind of cultural elements are really hard to be deleted. We need time for that. So that's the role that the international organization can have, not just on the legal obligation, but on the advancement, the progress of culture in different countries. Giving an example, calling upon states to identify specific measure to modify the same concept of workplace. the system of work is changing, right? So today we are talking in another way. So the workplace should not be considered the mere physical workplace, but must be a more ample concept, including all the new type of work that the technological progress has put in place. So I think that international organization can help with that. And I think, for example, just to give a concrete example, even though in relation to equal pay treatment, not specifically to sexual relation at work or sexual harassment, sorry, at work. In the case of European Union, the directive of in relation of equal opportunity establish the equal pay for equal job. That's the principle between men and women. However, and many progress has been done in that way in Europe. However, there are still many countries where differences of payment and treatment between same level of work and same competencies are not reached because of a gender discrimination. And this includes also more advanced, many members of the European Union. But I'm optimistic, I repeat, and I think that many progress has been done on that point, and we are on the way to advance, not to regress. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for your clarification on the query raised by one of the professor participant. Ma'am, as we are running out of time, we will just take one more question. And if anyone wants to ask you anything, if you can share your email details, then they can contact you through the email.
Okay.
Yeah, so we will take one more question, ma'am. It is from Priya Jain. Yes, Priya, unmute yourself. Yes, please ask.
Regarding as we are having many laws regarding women and their place in the society, but is it the initiative that the interpretation or we can say they are not being run properly, that they are lagging behind? What are your views?
Sorry, can you repeat, please? Because I have trouble to hear you at least at the initial point. Can you repeat, please? Madam.
Sorry, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Actually, my question is that is it the implementation of the laws or the lack of the laws that we are lagging behind the women, that we are lagging behind in various sectors? What are your views regarding that? We need new laws or we need to implement them stringently?
Okay, thank you very much, Madam, for your question. I think that it depends from country to country. My personal consideration of law is that law is a social science. Is a social science, possibly the most privileged social science in my point of view. That means that it should go hand in hand with the exigency of society. Let me just give you an example about the debates in place in Italy. We are talking now, and the debate is really hard at the parliament on the discussion about the adoption of on a law in relation to the definition of homotransphobia. So actually is a law proposal about a characterization of violence against based on gender and sexual orientation, especially as a grave action, so an aggravation of that crime, because in the internal order of Italy, there is no a specific case of aggravation for such crime committed based on reason of discrimination for sexual orientation and gender and so on. We have a law applicable to cases of violence motivated or sanctioning those acts instigating to violence based on racial reason, but not in relation to gender or gender and sexual orientation. So it is a very hard debate, because the conservative area don't want to have a specificity in that sense. Instead, there is a very big need to stop violence in the streets, sometimes occurring in the country against because of the orientation of people. But Italy is not the unique country. You can have a look to Poland, for example, or other countries where the rise of exclusion and discrimination is really high in Europe, because of so-called populist direction in need to have a sort of enemy to fight. In that case are women, person LGBT, and migrants and so on, all typified in their idea group. So I made that reference because it's one of the recent debates that in the legislature to approve such a law. It's always hard to make an agreement about such exigency, but there is the exigencies to have a legal framework. And then from that legal framework, of course, if you don't put in place the law and respect the law with articulated policies, the law is just a formal act. So law and policies must go on hand in hand to have been in place. And also, I can say, to comply with international obligation. When the Committee on Human Rights of United Nations call upon states to respect with the obligation enshrined by the Civil and Political Rights Covenant of United Nations, just to give you an example, call upon all the sector of the state, including the administrative sector, the police, who is in charge to implement policies, and so on. Because you can have the best law of the world, but if you don't articulate such law in concrete action, you will still have the problem unresolved. I don't know if I have been clear. And of course, Dr. Asani, I will be very happy to share my contact details with the audience to be in touch. If you want, I can put it on the chat.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Please, you can do that.
Okay.
I can see one more raised hand, but yes, Niharika, we can actually take your question in the next session, because our distinguished another guest is also waiting for us to deliver her lecture. and we have to really free Professor Antonita ma'am also. So yes, ma'am has shared her email ID. All of you can check her email ID in the chat box. It's antonita.elia@usc.es. And another email ID is antonita.elia@gmail.com. So any of you interested to contact Professor Elia ma'am, you can email her, and whatever query you want to ask, you can share with her. Okay, ma'am, then I believe that, yes.
Just one word to because I'm reading the chat, and
Okay.
just thank you because I saw other question in the chat.
Okay.
So if you agree, after my distinguished colleague will present her views, we can have the time to read also the questions in the chat.
Sure.
And to answer to the chat. And let me also to thank you to all for the patience and attention with me today. Thank you.
Ma'am, yes, thank you so much. It was really an enlightening session, as we have already got the feedback in chat box. And yes, when I will be sharing the feedback link with all the participants, I am sure that all kind of good feedbacks which I will receive, I will share with you. I am obvious that we are going to receive a lot of good feedbacks about your session. Ma'am, it was really interactive also, and you highlighted almost each and every aspect of prevention of sexual harassment for women at workplace, not only at workplace, but in the society, how gender disparity should be removed, discrimination should be removed. This is what we got from your speech. So yes, ma'am, I once again, on behalf of my NTVS College of Law, all the participants present over here, of course, Vijay Lakshmi Sharma ma'am, we would like to really thank you for being with us, sharing your views, and sparing your valuable time in front of the audience present in this webinar. So yes, ma'am, thank you. Thanks a lot for being with us. I am sure that you are going to be associated with us in the future events also. Being a college in the tribal area, we have organized so far more than 20 online events. And this was our 21st event, to be precise, on various aspects concerning or various social problems concerning in our society. We have already organized in the past 2 of the international webinars on law and social transformation and women empowerment. So this was another aspect, prevention of sexual harassment, which you have covered as being a personality from abroad to this webinar. So ma'am, thank you. Thanks a lot from our NTVS College of Law. Thank you for being with us, ma'am. Yeah. So yes, participant, now let me invite our another guest, and whatever queries you have to ask, or whatever queries in the chat box are there, I will like to request at the outset that Sharma ma'am to highlight that queries also after your presentation. So before I invite another chief guest, that is Honorable Dr. Vijay Lakshmi Sharma. She is a professor of law and has acted in the leadership position as director and the head of Department of School of Law, Manipal University, Jaipur. She has a rich and versatile teaching experience of over 17 years. During her illustrious career, she has efficiently and diligently shouldered administrative and student welfare assignments and has done multiple caps of different hierarchy within the university effortlessly. She was also awarded MUJ President's Award on 26 January 2016 for her excellent performance in academics and guided several doctoral students. She has organized legal awareness camps for the law student and society. Her research area is women empowerment and child welfare. She is also actively associated with various NGOs and organizations for the legal counseling. She has chaired several national and international seminars and has been vocal on several talk shows where she had argued her points well and had been facilitated as well. She is a legal advisor on the panel for a number of leading hospitals like CK Birla Hospital, near Jaipur, and Manipal Integrated Services, Jaipur, for prevention of sexual harassment at workplace, and has been part of various legal committees in the mainstream industrial setup. So this is what about Dr. Vijay Lakshmi Sharma ma'am. She is a specialist in this area, and in front of our audience, she is going to highlight about the POSH Act of 2019, which our Indian government enacted, 2013, that is in the year 2013. So yes, ma'am, with this, I would like to invite you to have a talk in front of our audience. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sunny. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Principal Professor Chaudhary and the entire team of this college. And I welcome Dr. Antolita. So she is also my friend. So hello, Antolita. Your session was really very interactive. So I am really thankful to you also. And I welcome all the participants who are here for listening such a very informative session, which is related to the women especially. So without wasting your time, I would like to share my screen, Dr. Sunny. Can I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am. I have already permitted you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you can first unmute yourself. Sharma ma'am, you would need to unmute yourself, ma'am, so that we can get to know what kind of problem you are facing.
Yes. Just a minute.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible now. You can unmute yourself. Sharma ma'am, your screen is visible. Yes.
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 Dr. Sunny, is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Sunny and all the participants. Today, I am going to talk about Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition, Redressal Act 2013. So, the journey of the women started from E to E. So I would like to explain, as Dr. Antolita has already mentioned, that most of the time exploitation, or what can we say, that harassment or sexual harassment or violence against women is related to the exploitation. How we can move ourselves from exploitation to empowerment. So I think between this gap, exploitation to empowerment, the journey of this gap is totally based on the legal framework and definitely the awareness of the society. Without law and society, nothing can be possible. Whatever you want to talk about, not only in India, but I think worldwide, it's a journey which is related to the exploitation, to the empowerment. It is totally based on the mindset of the society and definitely a flavor of the legal framework. So this is, as today's session is totally upon this particular point, that is Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. So first of all, I think that we all must be very much aware about our constitutional framework, because in preamble of the Indian Constitution, equality, as in most of the time we can see that equality of status and opportunity, it is very, very important. You know why? Because earlier, at the time of Britishers, or what can I say, that before independence, this was the major fight between the society. We were not equally treated, not as per the status and the opportunities as well. So our Indian Constitution and all the constitution of the worldwide has given this particular opportunity to its country's citizen and the society. So I think Article 14 of the Constitution is very, very important for this equality. And definitely on this particular journey, a safe workplace is a legal right, a constitutional right of a woman. And in this further, I would also like to mention this UN Convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, that is CEDAW, which was adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1979, and which is rectified by India also. So my dear friends, constitutional provisions, as I told you, Article 14 and Article 15, it is very, very important. And again, Article 21, that is right to safe environment, right to life and to live with dignity, right to practice any profession, and so on. So as I think most of you are from law background as well, what I believe, all of you are very much aware about the constitutional provisions. So in this reference, the particular point on which we are talking about, that is sexual harassment at workplace. So my dear friends, I think that a brief history of this act, before starting my whole discussion, I think we must be aware about the brief history of the act, how it was enacted and what was the reason behind this particular act. So before starting, I as Dr. Antolita, one thing which I would like to share with you, that the initiative of this act was begin from the Rajasthan, you know, from the Jaipur itself. And as I am also from Jaipur, so I think it's my duty to enlighten on such a topic, on such a fact, how this act was enacted and what was the reason behind this. So here, a very near place, a very, very small village nearby this Jaipur, that is Bateri. The name of the village was Bateri, and one woman, she was sexually harassed by 5 persons. Unfortunately, she has filed a report against those 5 persons. But you know, that time in 1992, it was unfortunately not had been decided, right? And the case, it was decided by the session court, and later it was filed for the appeal in Rajasthan High Court in 1997. So that time, you know, and when it was filed as an appeal in Rajasthan High Court, during that time, the group of some females, they just put up this point. You know, the case was still going on, but during this time, they put up this point that what is the safety measures for a woman if she is on the workplace? And who will take the custodian, right? And who will take the liability that, yes, if a woman who is working in our organization, we will take the onus. and we will be liable for taking each and every aspect related to the women. So that time, this question was really a very, very aggressive mode. It was taken by the women that time in Jaipur. So they filed a petition in Honorable Supreme Court in 1997. And the result of this petition was this act, that was Prevention of Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace. So this Bhamri Devi, she was totally illiterate woman. Let me tell you one thing, she was totally illiterate. She don't know how to go to file her complaint, how to go to give her points, because she was totally illiterate. But yes, somehow some other persons and the husband of the same lady, he was very much helpful. So somehow she could manage, and the petition was filed. So this was the history of this act. And after declaration of this act, it was Vishakha guidelines. The petition was filed through an NGO, that was Vishakha NGO. It is also situated in Jaipur only. So that time, the persons who were associated with this NGO, they had filed this petition of sexual harassment. So the history of this act was like that. In 1993, as I told you, the case happened in 1992. But in 1993, the work has been started, and Vishakha verdict was by Supreme Court. It was given in 1997. First time in Medha Kotwal and others versus Union of India. In this case, this point was raised in 1999. And, the important thing is that before 2013, we were only following the guidelines, the Vishakha guidelines in entire country. So entire India was bound to follow the guidelines of Vishakha, whatever was pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court. But in 2013, it was given assent by the President that no, now this POSH Act should be there. So 2013, 23rd April 2013, this act was enacted. Some rules, regulations, and this was regulated, enforced to whole India. So these were the Vishakha guidelines. Before this act, these guidelines were there, which were mandatory to follow each and every organization. It means somehow some organizations are not following the proper guidelines, how to make the employees aware what is this meaning of this sexual harassment at workplace. So now this is mandatory. And after 2013, when Act was enacted, it was mandatory for all the organizations as well. Next, the important question is, what is sexual harassment at workplace? Whether it is related to the some sexual abuse, or we can say rape, or we can say some sexual assault. What is it actually? The definition of the sexual harassment is clearly mentioned in this act, that sexual harassment includes anyone or more of the following unwelcome acts or behavior. So this is very important. The act must be unwelcome, whether it is physical contact or advances, a demand or request for sexual favor, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal, and non-verbal conducts. So this is clearly, defined under this act, the definition of this sexual harassment. What is sexual harassment? And one more thing which I would like to mention, that not only in this particular law, that is sexual harassment at workplace, in Indian Penal Code also, there is a specific section which is related to the sexual harassment at workplace. As we can see, it is section 354A Indian Penal Code. And it is clearly mentioned that unwelcome touching or other physical contact, asking or demanding sex or any other sexual activity, making remarks which are of a sexual nature, showing pornography material, which may include videos, magazines, books, etc. So this definition is given under this Indian Penal Code. See, the Sexual Harassment Act is, is in civil nature. But when we will talk about this IPC, Indian Penal Code, it is related to the criminal nature. So in both the areas, in both the laws, as one of my friend has asked a very good question to Professor Antonita, that what kind of legal framework or we should impose rigorously this legal provisions towards the society. So my dear friend, I think the law are sufficient, if you will see our statutes, if you will see our legislation, law has been provided in a very sufficient manner. Yeah, but the important thing is whether we are aware or not. And if being a law student, if you are aware, I think you have to make them aware. In the society, you have to create some awareness sessions. You have to create some awareness in the society as well. So I think laws are very sufficient. As you can see in this particular law, IPC, see, in Indian Penal Code, it is a criminal law amendment in 2013, which was inserted in 354A. And the most important thing, I am not going to read out the whole provision. You can see in Indian Penal Code as well. I will only focus the last line of this slide is the punishment under these sections include an imprisonment term for 3 years to a maximum of 7 years with fine. See, my dear, the thing is, everything is there. The point is whether we are aware or we are creating such kind of environment in our society. That is very important. So I think if we will talk about whether the female is safe in a house, I think females are not safe in a home also. And you can see number of things, recently, as you are aware about the POSH Act that is related to the child abuse. You can see number of cases has been reported just because of the relatives of the child. And they are not being harassed by anyone, not by strangers. They are harassing by their own relatives, my dear. So our houses are not safe as well. But the important thing, how we can make such kind of environment which should be very safe, very conducive for the livelihood. So this is for Indian Penal Code. One thing which is very important, and I think that I must share with you all audience, this is a very important judgment which has been passed by Supreme Court, that now this sexual harassment is not related to the women only. Now it would be applicable on transgenders as well. Judgment on section 354A of IPC to transgender community. See the seriousness of such kind of laws. Supreme Court in its landmark judgment, National Legal Service Authority versus Union of India. In this case, you will see one transgender who was harassed by the person, he was equally treated like a woman. If a transgender would be treated or would be harassed by such kind of evil, he will be also protected by the law in the same manner, in the same protective manner which we are giving to the females. So this is a very important judgment. Yeah. Another point, I think that we must know about this, who is an aggrieved woman. I think everyone who is working, whether visiting or the regular, or in which manner actually they are working, every working woman is a working woman, and students are also included in this aggrieved women's definition, which is mentioned under this Sexual Harassment Act. One thing more, my dear friends, as per this act, it is very important that the organization which has more than 10 employees must be having this particular committee, that is sexual harassment at workplace committee. And this committee should be constituted by every organization if the organization is having more than 10 employees. But again, a very different aspect related to the domestic workers. As we know, domestic worker could not be gathered more than 2, 3, 4. It could not be, more than 10 workers in a house. But for these kind of domestic workers, we are having local committees. The responsibility and the liability of such kind of domestic workers are to the responsibility of the government as well. So in organization, there must be an internal committee, and on the basis of a state or the district, there must be a local committee. So 2 committees are there in this act. For the organization, it should be internal committee, and for district level, it should be a local committee. So domestic worker or such kind of cases should be entertained by the local committee. Otherwise, they can go directly to the this IPC through this channel mechanism of the IPC, Indian Penal Code. As if a domestic worker case, I can quote here the Shahini Ahuja's case, if you could remember or you could recollect the bad cases which has been decided also. So these are the women who are included in this POSH Act. Now, what is workplace? See, these particular points are related to the workplace. As I told you, house is also a workplace if domestic workers are there. Otherwise, hospitals, nursing homes, NGOs, government organizations, institutions, education institutions, companies, and so on. Yeah, this is very interesting case, which recently I come across with this case. During this pandemic situation, as you can see here, that this is a case which was decided by the Rajasthan High Court, that during this pandemic situation, when we all are connected with this digital mode on this particular platform, that we are on digital platform, but the question is, on this particular platform, can this kind of sexual harassment be happened? It was the question. Answer was yes. As you can see, it was the mandatory condition should be that the workers, the capacity of the employee should be same. If they are working on the same capacity, whether they are sitting on the different places, doesn't matter. It will not affect on such kind of cases. If the employees are in the same capacity, and employee, if he is committing such kind of sexual harassment or sexually colored remark, statements or comments to the other employee, that will be also considered in this particular law. As you can see, recently Rajasthan High Court has given this verdict on this particular online or this digital platform harassing point. The point another which I would like to definitely share, that is there any form of sexual harassment? Answer is yes. There are 2 types of sexual harassment. Number 1 is quid pro quo. Number 2 is hostile work environment. Quid pro quo is this for that. It means whenever a person who is demanding something for completing some another task, then it will be quid pro quo. So this is also a form of sexual harassment. Another one is hostile work environment. Yes, definitely. If you will go through with the cases, you will find out how the persons who are making such kind of, hostile work environment, a female is not comfortable to complete their task. She's totally, in this this particular point, that the thing is how this she can complete the points. So I think that we have to think about these points as well. Now, as I told you about this internal committee, so this internal committee should be formed, should be constituted in each and every organization, whether it is government or non-government. The eligibility of this committee should be, one should be chairperson, and the women who is working at the senior level as employee, he should be a chairperson. Two members must be there, and one member should be external. So this the external member can be related to the legal background, or maybe from NGOs as well. Timelines as per the act, as I told you, this committee should be constituted, and you have this the employer's duty to organize some awareness sessions for the employees, and it must be going on very smoothly, that how a person who is a lady who is getting harassed, how she can file her complaint. So this is the timeline. Within 3 months of the incident, and notice of the respondent should be within 7 days, and the completion of the inquiry should be within 90 days. So this is the entire timeline for completion of the complaint. Yes, one more interesting case, which I think that I should discuss and share with you. Recently in Calcutta High Court, my dear friends, this is our confusion whether the sexual harassment would be applicable on women or men, because most of the time when I used to go to the hospitals for solving some cases or some sessions, mostly persons are willing to know about if a male has been getting harassed, then what kind of remedy is available for a male. So my dear friends, right now for the male, this law is not applicable, as the nomenclature of this law is the statute, the legislation has passed this act with the name of Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace, Prevention and Redressal and Mechanism. So my question is, although male has been not covered under this particular law if they are victim, but yes, for sure, if the other side, whether there is male or female, doesn't matter. I mean to say, as Dr. Antonita also mentioned this thing, that this time LGBT, gender, and in our Indian IPC, we have also decriminalized this particular, section from the IPC, and now LGBT is legal. So I think that if we are giving some legal rights to the same sex, don't you think that the problem should be arise in the same sex? Answer is yes. And you would be surprised through this case, when Calcutta High Court heard this case, it was really surprising that the other side, there was a woman who was creating something very, what can I say, very, very not in the favor of the other women. And the sexual harassment was committed by the women to women. So it was really very serious case, which came across in Calcutta High Court. And you can see that in Calcutta High Court itself says that the act doesn't mention that who would be there on the other side, who would be there as a respondent. It means it would be applicable whether there is male or female. Although victim should be female only, that is for sure. So I think it is really a very good initiative, a very good step by the High Court, by the judiciary itself. And I think that you all must be aware that very soon we are going to introduce gender neutral laws, my dear students, because gender neutral laws are very much required nowadays. As you are aware about the IPC's law, that is Pima theory, because day by day we are, giving some new ideology or some new provisions to the laws as well. So in same series, gender neutral laws are very soon coming up. And yes, as all of you are students, I think again it was my duty to make you aware whether students are covered in this particular law. Answer is yes. So as I was talking about the gender neutral laws, so my dear student, this is the first step which has been initiated by University Grant Commission. As you can see, prevention, prohibition, and redressal of sexual harassment of women, employees, and students in higher educational institution regulation 2015. My dear students, this is a very good law, which I think that you all must be knowing about this particular provision, that in UGC, in higher education, now who is a student. So you can see if you are a student or employee. Now look here, male, female, or third gender. So now this particular point, as we were discussing about whether the victim should be women, only a woman, it was for sure as per the law, as per the act. But you can see as per the regulation 2015 of UGC, now there is no discrimination between male, female, or third gender. As I also mentioned earlier in my previous slide, that there was a case which was related to the transgenders. And transgenders, that was also a case from the higher education institute. So in this particular slide, you can see that yes, if male, female, or third gender, if the student is there or any employee, and if any kind of sexual harassment has been committed against male, female, or third gender, that should be also covered under this regulation 2015. And the management of the higher education institutions are bound to listen, are bound to investigate the whole case and then send the report to the UGC. So this was related to you all students, and these are again mandates for the universities. So I'm not going to read out the entire slide. Yeah, one point which is again very important: false accusation. So I think that we have to understand, if a person who is filing a false accusation, a false complaint, what kind of penalty should be imposed against that person. That is also a provision under our laws. So you can see punishment for false and malicious complaint and false evidence, or this, if the internal committee comes to a conclusion that it was a false or malicious accusation, definitely witness has been false evidence or produced any forged or misleading documents, it may recommend it that the employer of the complaint and the witness to take action as per the provisions. So as I think that you are aware about Delhi High Court's judgment. Recently, it was given by the Delhi High Court for the false accusation, 50,000 rupees penalty was imposed for 50,000 rupees. So my dear friends, again, as it was very sensitive, definitely we have to be very careful, we have to be very aware that what kind of provisions are available to avail the remedy. Yes, one thing which is really very interesting and I would like to share, as Professor Chaudhary initially talk about this sexual harassment law and the Bhamri Devi. So I am very glad to share with you all that recently Manipal University, Jaipur, has organized this event for the felicitation of Bhamri Devi. Recently, in this pandemic situation, you would be surprised that she came to our university, she met with our students, and she told each and every aspect of this sexual harassment act, and she is really very proud to know that now each one of the girl of my country is safe. Now each one of women of my country is very protective due to this act. And she feels very proud. I must tell you that how much bold she is. I must tell you that she is really very bold lady. So I thought that I should share this slide with you all. And if I will talk about the empowerment, as in my first slide, that was exploitation to the empowerment. So if I will talk about this empowerment, this is very interesting point, which is I thought that it is really very nice to know on your part that recently this Ministry of Defense has given the right of the participation of women. So I think Supreme Court has also mentioned this thing that now in defense services, the participation of women is also available. And in the same point, as the women who are not, working, they are housewife. So I think that don't be afraid, because now Supreme Court has mentioned this thing that housewives are also important and they are not less than a working women. So I think that is another aspect which we should give some inputs to those women who are not going anywhere for working. If they are housewife, I think they are having the same status, they are having the same empowerment like a working woman. So I think the model for providing security to women, which has three main grounds. Number one is education, number two is empowerment, and number three is legal resources. So my dear friends, being a law student or being any other, you are from any other field, that doesn't matter. The important thing is that whatever knowledge you are having, whatever domain you are having, you have to inculcate, you have to enlighten others. This kind of knowledge to the others, to make them so much aware about these laws. As again, I must tell you that Professor Antolita very truly mentioned this thing, that awareness, education are very, very important. And I think that we all are responsible for giving such kind of knowledge to the society. So thank you so much, Dr. Sunny, and all the participants who has listened me very patiently. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed our pleasure to listen to you, actually. And yes, we are running out of the time, but if anyone is interested to ask any question to Sharma ma'am, they are open to ask. Yes, Antonita ma'am, please.
Doctor, thank you, Professor. Very, very interesting and informative session. Very, and also an evidence of my optimism. Already mentioned. I said we have a lot of positive, best practices like you presented, but the way is still very long to go. So thank you very much, because it's really interesting to me also to have more details about that law. For example, you mentioned that the victim of the sexual harassment has 3 months under the committee to denounce. So the first question is it not too much short time, because if I put myself on the side of victim, sometimes I'm not in full capacity to distinguish if it's a sexual harassment case. Sometimes it's a matter of shame, of self responsibility, thinking, oh, I'm responsible for that. So a lot of factors in course. So my question is about the term. The second point is about independence and impartiality of the comedy. What is your opinion about that? The third point is in relation to sanction. I mean, if that comedy is not put in place, there is a sanction over against the employer, because he's obliged. It is supposed that he's obliged to create such comedy. If he didn't, he can or she can incur on a sanction, over a sanction. And the other point is education also of the committee member and the employer, the training, because the problem of recognized sexual harassment is especially into the hands who it is supposed to supervise the situation. So what is the position also? Is there any mention about the training, the continuing training of the employer about that?
Yeah.
And the last point, I'm really interesting. You mentioned the case of Calcutta court, referring to the human dignity.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, because it's what I try to say. We must turn around the concept of human dignity, not of gender or sexual orientation.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Professor Antolita, your questions are very genuine. So first of all, I would like to mention that in this particular law, it is mandatory that each and every organization should organize some, trainings for the employees and the employers as well. Right. So this committee, the work of this committee is not only to listen the complaints. The work of the committee is to organize such camps, to organize some training sessions for the employees and for the employers as well. And most importantly, as your question is very genuine, that sometimes victim couldn't realize that what should she do. Right? Maybe because of some shame, maybe because of some, peer pressure, whether she has to file the complaint or not. So for that, this sensitizations are very important. We have to sensitize them. And this could be possible only through the trainings. We have to make them aware that you have to raise your voice, and not falsely. It should be very true. Sometimes what happened, Professor, that sometimes the understanding level is something different, So what is the exact means interpretation of the act? It should be very important. Sometimes females are also taking interest in something, and later on the scenario is totally 360-degree change. Are you getting my point? So everything is mentioned in our law. And number two, after recommendation of the committee, it is very important how, what is the nature of the case? What are the circumstances? If the circumstances are very serious, if the nature of the case is very serious, definitely sanction or the punishment should be decided by the committee as well. And they can recommend, and finally employer is having this right to decide the final verdict. And if the case is really very worst, right, if the organization is not in the position to decide the case, then organization will transfer or will hand over this case to the state. Now, this is the duty of the state. Recently in Jaipur, in a hospital, there was a very, shameful case. And as the case was totally related to somehow the rape. So committee has handed over this person, this respondent, to the state, and they has lodged this FIR also. So the point is, what is the nature? What are the circumstances of the case? Number two, each and every employee should be sensitized by the employer. It is a duty of the employer that they have to make them aware what kind of act should be considered in sexual harassment. Not, we can't consider each and every aspect. If the point is genuine, then only it will be considered. So act is very clear, Professor. Here, this Indian Act is very, very clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Antonita ma'am, and of course, Sharma ma'am, you both made this session quite interactive. And ma'am, I can find two more hands which are raised. So in short, you both of them can ask Priya Mishra and Niharika ma'am. So then we can wind up it very quickly. So first, Niharika, you can ask your question, unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. It was an excellent session. So my question is, ma'am, I want to ask that you have mentioned that transgenders are equally protected as women, right, under this particular POSH Act. But then we have already discussed that the definition is clear that it is providing protection to women only, and that transgenders include trans men also. So I'm assuming that trans men will be left out of its scope. And secondly, as you have already mentioned, that Calcutta High Court's judgment said that men cannot be treated as victims. So I am assuming that their remedy against such sexual harassment will lie under IPC section 354 capital A, because there only the sex of the perpetrator has been defined, but not the victim's sex has been specified. And ma'am, secondly, is the time right for bringing a gender neutral law and changing the entire definition and just, bringing something like sex on the basis of, discrimination on the basis of gender and sex? That would be an appropriate definition, because ma'am, this kind of gender neutral idea was also brought when Criminal Law Amendment Bill 2012 and this 13 Act came into picture. That was there then also, but then in the light of Nirbhaya case, it was omitted, and there was a lot of opposition from the women activist group also. So ma'am, briefly, my question is the time ripe to bring gender neutral law, keeping in mind that it takes a lot of courage for a woman to come forward and file a complaint if she is aggrieved in this entire scenario?
Niharika, please let me know one thing. What is your opinion? Then I will tell you. What is your opinion? If you will see in the society such kind of cases, what you will do? If you would be a judge, what kind of thought you will be having at the first instance? Please let me know.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I know many people will not agree with my opinion, but according to me, there should be gender neutral law, because I have read about a lot of cases where men have been victim, where transgenders have been victim, and the Transgender Protection Act of 2019 also doesn't provide enough protection to them against sexual offenses. Like the punishment for rape committed against transgender is very less in the 2019 Act, and if we compare the punishment in the IPC, that is way more. So I think this disparity is going to further increase if an action is not taken at the right time.
So this is the truth, Niharika, this is the truth. See, you don't think that your opinion are totally against of the society. Now you are thinking as per the society, my dear Niharika. As we can see that day by day society is now changing. So therefore law must be changed now. If you are seeing, if you are coming across with such kind of things surrounding, which are happen surrounding you, I think we must raise our voice. And this is only the point by which we can see that most of the time, not only women, but also men and transgenders are also getting harassed. So I think this is the right time for making some amendment in such kind of laws which are totally focused on the women, because now time has been changed. As we can say, what about domestic violence? As you will see, in newspaper as well. You can see how men are getting, harassed by the women, by their own females in their own houses. I have number of cases, number of. The only point is, as Professor Antolita mentioned, human dignity, my dear. We all are human. Why we are acknowledging by a gender, by a sex? We all are just like a human. And the basic term of Article 14 is like should be treated as alike.
Alike. Yes.
Then what? Then for what we are fighting? Then what we are talking about? The thing is, earlier, the condition of the women was very poor. We all are agreed about this fact. But nowadays, can we compare the same situation and the condition of the women as per the last or in few years back? Answer is no. Now women are more powerful. Now women are having more opportunities. Definitely, if we need equal status, then definitely we have to look the other side of the mirror as well. Are you getting my points? Rights
Yes,
and
ma'am.
duties, my dear Niharika, rights and duties. If we want to see about our rights, we want to fight about the rights, then we have to also look about the duties. So this is my answer, Niharika.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, just one small question, if you please allow me. It's
Yes,
really
yes,
doubtful for me. Ma'am,
Uh-huh.
Section 10 of POSH Act says that before initiating an inquiry, at the request of the aggrieved woman, the committee can arrange conciliation or sort out the matter through conciliation. Ma'am, I just want to know, is there any mechanism to ascertain if the request is not made under coercion?
No, it is not. It is not a coercion. Actually,
No, ma'am, it's not. How to determine if the request has not been made under coercion?
no, that
Because
is.
once the settlement has reached, I think the inquiry stops or the inquiry does not proceed. So yes, ma'am.
No.
How to ascertain if the woman has freely made the request?
Yeah, Niharika, see, it is totally based on the circumstance. Are you from law?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Niharika, I think that you must be aware about the circumstances, no? How I can decide? We can't compare one case to another case. Every case is having their own facts, their own circumstances. So we can't compare. If in some cases, if it is proved by the victim that this conciliation is providing by such kind of grounds, definitely we have to look in another side. And if it is everything done by natural justice, if it is fair enough, then what is the point? Otherwise, Niharika, what is the need of alternative dispute resolutions, my dear? Then for each and every aspect, we have to go into the courts. Why your civil procedure code has been provided this provision for the alternative dispute resolution? There is no need to go in the courts. Therefore, this particular POSH committee is also providing such kind of conciliations that why we have to go into such kind of investigation and for the long process. If both the parties are agreed, then we have to do this work. Are you getting my point, Niharika? But yes, if there is any point on which the victim wants to prove that this entire process has been done by the coercion or some undue influence, you know what is the meaning of undue influence?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody is superior now. Then definitely
Right, ma'am.
it could be possible. So this is, as you are law student, I think you can solve this problem very easily.
Thank
Is
you
it
so
okay,
much, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, one last question, if you permit, Sharma ma'am, we can take.
Yes, sir.
Priya Mishra, unmute yourself.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody present. Ma'am, my question is, as you discussed the Vishakha case being the landmark judgment, Despite of the molestation by the villagers, Bhavri Devi gone through the mistreatment and disrespectful behavior by the persons in authority. As we know, the facts that when she went to the to file the FIR, she was refused and was ill treated by the police officers. And secondly, when the trial was in process, the lower court gave the judgment on the favor of the accused or the rapist, giving the reason, very lame reason, that how can a uncle do such an act in front of his nephew, that chacha bhatija relation.
Yes.
You
Yes.
must be Hanji, aware of that. Ma'am, what is your opinion that how can we complete the journey from E to E that you explained, exploitation to empowerment, when the authorities do not do the work they are supposed to do in the manner they are supposed to do, and exploiting their power, ma'am?
Yeah.
What are your views, ma'am?
Yes, Priya, your question is very good, but answer is also hidden in your question for E to E. If you will see Bhavri Devi, she was exploited, but nowadays, what is the status of Bhavri Devi? She is so much empowered, my dear Priya. Are you getting my point? She
Yes,
was
ma'am.
exploited, my dear. She was exploited. Everything which you has mentioned, that is true. One more point which I would like to add in this, that the lower court's judge has mentioned this thing, that as Bhavri Devi belongs the lower caste, and all the 5 accused were from the upper caste.
Upper class. Yes, ma'am. Right.
Not possible. I am also surprised that how a learned person who is holding such kind of position, he could pronounce such kind of judgment.
Exactly, ma'am.
And you would be surprised, my dear, that appeal case is pending till today in Rajasthan High Court. You would be surprised. The appeal case is also pending till today in the Rajasthan High Court. But see, from E to E, the best example is Bhavri Devi only. Exploited, but now she is empowered. Now, as the law has been made on the name of Bhavri Devi, my dear Priya. How I can give a better example rather than this Bhavri Devi? So
Ma'am, the point is that we are having many laws. We have a bundle of laws and policies and guidelines, but the problem lies always in the implementation aspect. If we talk about India, I do not do not know about other countries, but in India, we are always following the corruption cases, the implementation lackings, and we are always lagging behind. The authorities which are in power, they are corrupting and exploiting their powers, which is not, ma'am, very good, and discouraging for the law students. As I am a law student, I see my future in law in India, and I feel very bad that the system is getting that much
I think,
deteriorating. And yes,
I think
ma'am.
if you are a law student, I think that you have to take oath by yourself that whenever you will go in the field, whenever you will join the field of this legal domain, you will not do like this. And
That's for sure, ma'am.
each one of us, if we will be very, very, very committed with ourselves, that we are not going to repeat such kind of things in the society, I think the system will be automatically changed. Priya, the point is, we are only talking about the issues. Nobody is there who is talking about the solutions. What is the solutions? The problems are there. We all are aware. Number of problems are there. Everybody knows corruptions are there. Everyone is, or not, I can't say everyone. Most of the persons are not performing their duties as well. We are very well known about this now. The answer is, what would be the solution? And the solution is, whatever I am doing, whatever I will perform in my career, I will be, not included in such kind of things. And I think each one of law student nowadays, Sunny sir, how many law students are there nowadays? How many students are pursuing law tentatively in all over India?
Ma'am, as for example, we are very small unit and more than 500 students pursue law degree every
So
year.
I think, Sunny sir, I think that more than 5 lakh students are pursuing
Obviously,
law.
obviously.
And see, Priya, if all you 5 lakh students thinks about such kind of, commitment, see, you can visualize tomorrow's India. Because as I always quote this with my students or to all the audience, all the participants with whom I had been associated, that today's child is tomorrow's future. This is a really very, very important phrase which has been given by the Gandhiji. So I think that you all law students, or we all teachers, if we will provide you such kind of lessons, definitely you will change the society. So think about that. Don't think that what others are doing. Don't think about that. What you are doing and what you will do. What would be done by you in your future career. That is only the purpose for the life. I think so.
Yes, ma'am, rightly said that change starts from within.
Yes.
And I really hope for the betterment, and I will surely that from my end, I will try my best to be on the right path.
All the
Thank
best.
you for the
All the
thank
best.
you for the yes, ma'am. Thank you for the lovely answer, and thank you for the enlightening session. You and the Elia ma'am. Thank you so much for your this beautiful lecture.
Thank you. Thank you, Vita.
Thank you to you.
Okay, thank you so much, participants, especially Priya, Niharika, Vijayalakshmi ma'am. You asked very nice questions. You made these sessions, both the sessions, very interactive. Many of the questions are still pending in the chat box. Sharma ma'am, if I can request you to put your contact details, especially email ID, in the chat box, so that student like Niharika and Priya can contact you whenever they feel, and whatever advice they want to take, they can. Yes, dear participants, it's sorry from my side that we are not able to entertain each and every query to address over here, as we are already, what I can say, more than 1 hour we have delayed our program, or extended our program, I should say. It was about to finish at 4:45, and now it's near to 5:45, I guess. So yes, at the end, I would like to say that there are 2 powers in the world. One is the sword, other is the pen. But my friends, the 3rd power is women. Yes, and we men are. I don't think we have any kind of identity without women's. Behind every man, there is a successful woman. But remember, behind every successful woman, there is a woman. So yes, women is present everywhere, and it shall be. More than half, or I could say that nearly half of the world's population comprises of this section. Say, then how it's possible that we would keep them behind us and not besides us? So this is how it is going to go, unless and until we are not going to change our mindsets. Women shall help women more than men. This is what I feel, because being a man, we do whatever it is in our hands, but sometimes it is women herself who is not ready to accept the challenge or accept the change which requires in her mindset or in the society. So with this note, once it was said by Nelson Mandela that freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all kinds of oppression. So yes, this was a slight attempt for the first time made by myself for on behalf of my institute to really keep a gender sensitization program, as Sharma ma'am also told that the main purpose of this POSH Act is also not to just punish the offenders, but to create a sensitivity which is required in our society. And ma'am, it was really beautifully enlightened by you, all the aspects covered by you, what Indian POSH Act 2013 says about. Similarly, Dr. Antonita Elia ma'am, you also highlighted whatever at international platform you believe it is lagging or it is need to be improved. So with this, I once again thank you both of our distinguished speakers for their valuable time, valuable knowledge sharing with us, enlightening our audience with whatever you specialize in this area. So yes, special thanks to Sharma ma'am because she was ready to once again accept my invitation. She was invited by me previously also, and I really like to thank you, ma'am, for always cooperating me and making these events our event successful one. Special mention to Dr. Antonita Elia ma'am, who was really ready to cop up with this webinar on request of course, Sharma ma'am and myself. And we were frequently contacting each other. We were struggling to find out the time slot which would match to Elia ma'am and to us. And finally, we spotted one time that was comfortable to all of us. So yes, participants, before I say a final word, let me just highlight you that you will soon get the feedback link in your email IDs and you will receive the certificate in your email ID by 10th of June. I would like to also sincerely thanks to all the participants who registered in large number. We were also going live on YouTube. So we nearly got 300 registrations and I guess it was 90 to 95 attendance full house in the starting, and on YouTube also I guess nearly 150 views we have got so far. So out of 300, I guess nearly 250 participants participated in this webinar and they were benefited. So yes, ma'am, with this, with your kind permission of both of you, Elia ma'am and Sharma ma'am, it's now time to wind up this webinar, and special mention to both of you again for being with us. And the same cooperation I would like to receive you in the future also from both of you, ma'am.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Sunny. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Antonita.
you so much, Dr. Ida.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yes,
Thank you, Professor.
with these smiling faces, yes, ma'am. With these smiling faces and two of the powerful women around you or in front of you, you can see. And what much we can expect. Yes, laws may be there. There are lots of laws in India, especially made for women. But remember, once again, I will like to highlight you that it is not always men who are violating the rights of women, but sometimes women also violate the rights of women itself.
Yes.
So yes, with this note, let us be safe, be home. We are soon getting unlocking ourselves everywhere, but it is time to take care, take precautions, wear mask, and wash your hands properly, and keep a safe distance. Distance, it may be a physical distance, but by heart, we are all together always. So yes, with this note,
Doctor,
yes, ma'am.
Doctor, just one word. Take this opportunity to express my sincere. My heart is with your people in that difficult time, and I do really hope that also India can get out of that tragic situation. So my heart is with your people today and from many days now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Antolita.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for your actually kind concern about our situation. But we are improving a lot, and with the population of more than 135 crores, I don't think that we are much bothered about it. But yes, your concerns are great, and we will soon cop up with whatever situation we have got in front of us. So yes, ma'am. Now it's time to say goodbye to all of you, and in the future also, I really invite you all that take part in our webinars. We frequently keep organizing such kind of events only for the benefit of you all people. So with this note, I would like to once again thank each and everyone. And with this note, I would like to end the meeting now. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.